Greetings, public access hosts out there. I'm Chris with the SmartAssPodCast, and today we have a very special guest, the Reverend Joey Royale, creator of WHPA-13 Fairhaven.
Ciao, pisanos! Chris, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Absolutely. I'm glad to have you in the studio. And, well, let's get started. What is WHPA for those that don't know?
WHPA TV-13 is Weird Heroes of Public Access, a tabletop role-playing game. So basically, you know, you have your Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that where you play an elf killing dragons. In this, you play the role of a public access host in a pre-internet suburban town called Fairhaven that has been cursed by a perpetual full moon and all the supernatural weirdness that comes out of that.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
That's definitely up my alley. I'm a older millennial, so I would grow up with like that last era of cable and like public access. So I like that that's still lingering around.
The switch from analog to digital and all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got to keep that alive.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, these younger kids don't know about VHS.
These whippersnappers. Get weird.
All right, now, what was the origin of Weird Heroes of Public Access?
I'm trying to track this back and find out the seed from which this grew, and I think it was a reaction or a lifesaver during my isolation during COVID, because I was sitting around. I work in public education by day. I'm an elementary school principal, so you can just imagine what it was like during the beginning of COVID. We didn't really know what was going on.
Right.
I had to walk around with a yardstick and say, all right, these kids are out for 10 days. It was driving me nuts, and it's not what I had signed up for. So I needed to be creative and get this, I had to live another life outside of that misery. So I wrote down, one day at work, when I was having a grinder, I wrote down all the things that I love. And I had already been in trying out writing games. I was in that mood. So I'm like, well, I got to just encompass everything right now and find joy at the table, because it was weird. You weren't playing at the table with your friends anymore.
Right.
Zoom was just at its. We had never heard of Zoom before. It was just on its verge of becoming a big thing. So I sat down and I said, I need to connect with my friends. I want to do something fun that we can kind of forget about stuff for a while. So I just started to write a list of all the stuff I loved. I had already completed Ninja City, so I'm like, all right, what else in that realm of the VHS weirdness and nostalgia can I make? So I wrote down stuff like, wrestling, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Ernest, Alf, and Walter Mercado from Univision, like all this kind of stuff. So I made this list of just weirdness, and it was a whole page, and I said to myself, what the hell umbrella does this stuff fall under? Prank calls, this and that, because it was just very far-reaching and very weird, and I'm like, holy cow, public access, because there's a public access show for every weird niche interest, and I said, okay. So now, what's a public access host going to do during a role-playing game? Well, I'm a big fan of X-Files and Twin Peaks and, Kolchak the Night Stalker, all that kind of stuff. And I was really hot into Columbo. I was on a Columbo spree again,
I was watching him last night.
Yeah, he's the best. Peter Falk's amazing.
Absolutely.
So I said, all right, they got to solve mysteries.
Yes.
I wanted it. I was very sure that, I didn't want internet and cell phones. I wanted walkie-talkies and maybe bulletin boards from the old days, that kind of thing. So I said, all right, 70s, 80s kind of thing. And we didn't have much to do during COVID, so I just drove around my town a lot, and I revisited the spots of my youth that were kind of mysterious. The spots in the woods we used to run off to, whether it be playing Army or playing Ninja or Spy, or in high school, like the parties and running from the fuzz and all that stuff. Like those special spots that every townie knew.
Yeah.
But a lot of the guys I play and gals I play my gaming with are from other states. But we had these kind of consistencies. Everybody had that spot in the woods.
Right.
Everybody had the haunted house. Everybody had the place where the supposed Satanists were burning goats and stuff like that. So that's how Fairhaven became, which is the town where WHPA takes place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, that's great, because I once you said that, like, everyone has like very similar stories.
Yeah.
Like I know my neighborhood did.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And then you were part of the first Fairhaven '99.
Oh, absolutely.
So what that was I'm like, all right, I got to get this out there. I'm just a guy making stuff in my basement, but I was alone. I was lonely. I said, I'm going to do this old school. It's going to be like send a self-addressed stamped envelope. I only did it through Instagram. like, here's this book I made. Join us. So you pay me $10. I send you in the mail. And then I wanted to build a community, and that's how the Fairhaven 99. I only made 99 copies of the first scene in the beginning, and everybody who signed up for that, strangers, friends alike, every month would get some kind of ephemera in the mail that would build upon the lore of Fairhaven. So you got a pile of stuff. You got
absolutely
the Fairhaven Library newsletter that were adventure hooks and statted up creatures. You got the obituary and funeral card for Sherman Glim. Rest in peace, may he live forever. But that just kind of grew. And I'm like, I got enough stuff for another zine and another zine. I just wanted to keep it going because the feedback I was getting and the friends I was making was something I had never experienced before. In isolation, we were building this network. So it was a very special thing.
It was. Like, I know getting those in the mail every month
we were all alone. Like, when's the last time you got something in the mail,
Exactly.
that you didn't order? Yeah.
Right? Except bills.
Except bills, yeah.
That's awesome. And I know I grew up watching things like Mystery Sightseer 2000.
That's a big, absolutely.
Elvira, Sven Dooley, those types of people.
Exactly. I love lo-fi.
Yes.
Because although, we call it lo-fi, but so much energy, creativity, and work goes into that stuff. To build a cardboard set, that's very difficult. Like the people that were doing public access, they had to drive somewhere, they had to take a public access course, you had to get somebody to work the cameras, and then, the production, all that, that's not easy. Now, we got it made. We go on YouTube, boom, you get something out the next day.
Yes.
And that's great, it's access, it's more equity for everybody, but back in the day, there was something special about the public access hosts.
Right. It's like
really working hard. Yeah, to get their weirdness out that maybe 4 people might enjoy.
Now, I actually have a few memories of local public access channels.
Yeah, what were they?
So, you're from Southern New England as well, so maybe you caught some of them. You know Bob's Big Adventures?
No.
He was this old-time guy from somewhere around here in Rhode Island, and he would just do travel logs and then have like a talk show and post them. And I'll never forget, one time when I was a kid, he went down to Carnival. And he brought back footage, and there was accidentally some Brazilian boobies. And some little old lady called in, and he got banned for like 3 months.
Oh, poor Bob. He was just trying to help everybody out.
Oh, it was fantastic. And then there was this other guy who's like this gym rat named Scotty. Scotty Too Hottie, Scotty's Hot Topics.
Nice.
And people would just call in and like throw angry barbs at him, and he'd throw them back. And
the resiliency. That's the thing. That's a big part of this. It's like, I'm not knocking or making silliness out of public access hosts. There's a resiliency to them.
Absolutely.
That they went out there, giving it their all, time away from work, time away from their family, to share their niche interest. All the time being berated by 13-year-olds. I was one of those, making those prank calls. But they still showed up every week to do their thing. So that's why I made them heroes in this town. The cops aren't going to help you. The public access hosts, they're going to stick to it and risk life and limb. There's something special about it.
Do you have any memories of like specific shows?
Yeah, definitely. There was one, and I remember prank calling it, thinking I was a big shot. There was one about the paranormal, but it was a very scientific approach. So they were talking about Area 51, and I called up, and I tried to pull that Bobless. What was it? It was on Coast to Coast. Yeah. Like, oh my God, they're chasing me! I tried to do that. Oh, they're probing me right now. There was that, and then there was some other ones. When I moved, I went to college in New York and lived up there for a little bit, and they had the craziest of stuff in the late 90s, early 2000s. Like anything went, from like very blue kind of stuff, people dancing half naked. But then I remember being up late at night, it was probably 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was just stop motion of 1970s G.I. Joes, and it was done on 8mm. And I'd never found out the name of the show or the explanation for it, but it was extremely graphic. There were blood and intestines and all that, but it must have been done back in the 70s because it still had that kind of 70s, that Texas Chainsaw Massacre filter, the yellow scratchy 8mm. There was stuff like that. And then at the dawn of YouTube, I found episodes of Beyond Vaudeville, which if you haven't seen Beyond Vaudeville, folks, you got to check it out. Basically, this guy, Frank Hope, would find old entertainers from the 30s, 40s. He'd go to the Star Trek conventions and Comic Cons before they were a big deal and find the old timers that would show up at this stuff, and he'd have them on. Very cheap set. He had a co-host, David, who would sit there like this the whole time and just get angrier and angrier. There was NYU students that found out. But that eventually became a show called Oddville on MTV. It was like kind of it was basically Beyond Vaudeville, but cleaned up a little bit. And that was one of the biggest influences, is why I went into the television career. My first career was television, was to get on and find out about stuff like that and produce stuff like that. But by the time I got to MTV working there, they started to get rid of kind of the cool stuff and got into like the true life, I had 8 kids when I was 5 years old, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I do miss that early, like, 90s.
Yeah, there was some cool stuff going on there.
Like liquid television and all that
exactly,
stuff.
that kind of stuff that you wouldn't find on the normal airwaves. It still had that kind of UHF, which is another big thing,
Absolutely.
UHF, Weird Al kind of feel to it.
Oh, yeah, that's such a great movie.
Yeah, the best.
Yeah. So speaking of movies, any other things that influence this, like films, TV shows?
Yeah, so I went back a lot to when I started to hash this out, the stuff that really spoke to me as a kid. There used to be a show on USA Network called Commander USA's Groovy Movies. And he was a guy, this is a tribute to him, he used to wear the mask. He had his co-host was Lefty, which was he would take a cigar and put a smiley face in the ash, which is on the back. That's what that is on the back of all the zines.
Oh, all right.
But he used to show stuff like Video Dead, Toxic Zombies, a lot of the Godzilla knockoffs and stuff like that.
All right.
That's always been a big part of me. I used to love the show Erie, Indiana. Like anytime there was not heroes solving mysteries and crimes and stuff like that. But one of the biggest influences is David Lynch. Twin Peaks, Blue Velvet, a lot of that stuff, like the finding the dark in the mundane, finding the strange in the mundane in neighborhoods in the suburbs. So that's a big thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I highly recommend every show he's mentioning right
Movies like Night of the Creeps.
Yes.
Stuff like that. This, taken over by suburbs, The Blob, The Stuff. All that kind of stuff, like where you can't trust anybody, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where the normalcy, like as boring as you can get, is completely upended, and you don't know what's really going on.
Well, Reverend, we're cut from the same cloth.
Yes, we are. Absolutely.
Everything you mentioned is almost my alley. And also, being from Rhode Island, the Cthulhu mythos. Always in the back of my mind, so I always like throwing that kind of stuff in when I'm running a game.
Yeah, I got some friends that are really into Call of Cthulhu and Delta Green.
Yes.
And that's another big thing I like, because like Delta Green, we play it very Twin Peaks style. You're staying in a motel, there's a murder in a motel, next thing you know. So but the area has a lot of influence on it. Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Massachusetts. Yeah. Just that kind of feel of what lurks behind the Stop and Shop. Those boys. And then you had a lot of weird, myths from the indigenous people time, mixed with the colonialism, the witches. We got witches everywhere. It's not just Salem. So there's a lot of that all baked into the foundations, 100%. Literally, that we find in the woods. Those strange stone walls that go on forever.
Oh, we had fieldstone walls right by the school. We had there's an old historic cemetery back there.
Sure. A lot of stories just laying around in the woods.
Oh yeah, we got a lot of vampire stories.
Yeah, sure.
And then I love that you added the melon heads to the.
Yeah, that's real stuff.
Yeah, I love that's one of my favorite.
Everything in WHPA, 90% is based on something real. There's a seed of truth in all of it. From the melon heads to the names that I use. They're references to either people I knew growing up or legends from around town, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it goes deep.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know where to go next with this, but
I got the backer kit going on right now.
Backer kit.
So the backer kit, I decided that although I love zine culture and I'll still continue to put out the zines, I needed something for efficiency, but I also needed something for a little bit of finances. All right, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, and I spend a lot of time on this stuff, and every minute I spend is not time with my family, so I got to reciprocate. So I got to get a little bit of return on my investment. So Joseph Goodman from GoodmanGames has always been a great mentor to me, and he's like, you got great stuff. I'll put it up in my shop, but what about a hardcover? He's like, you're not going to sell zines, and if you want to get your message out there, the zines aren't going to sell on a Barnes & Noble shelf. You need a book. And I talked to a lot of my friends who are moving into the hardcover edge of things and stuff with a spine. You need a spine to sell a book. So I thought this was the next logical step. And for efficiency, I got tired of carrying around a briefcase filled with 8 zines to show them off at cons. So I'm like, let's make an omnibus. I'm going to take the best of the best out of the first couple of zines and the core book, put it in one thing, make it real nice, and then do the add-ons, because I love the prize in the cereal box.
Yes, absolutely.
My friend Brian Shutter, he does the Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland.
Absolutely.
And he's the swag king. He's got Pogs, he's got Frisbee, he's got everything, he's merchandised everything. But I love that. I like stuff. I like to have stuff.
Exactly.
You know, I like stuff in my hands. So I'm like, let's do this backer kit thing. And all of a sudden, I don't know what's going on. It's
over $27,000 raised already. I'm number 10.
I know that.
I was trying to be number 1. But
so I didn't prepare stretch goals because I was just hoping to cross the finish line, just to make enough to get it printed. But we got way too. It got big. Now I'm not gonna say too big. I'm very grateful. But now we got to shift gears. So now I'm talking to factories making the dice. I was gonna do a little, from this company, but I'm like, nope. I got to talk. My good friend, the Dragon Wizard, Andrew from Exalted Funeral, great role-playing game.
Follow him as well.
Distribution company. He hooked me up with some of their people that they use. So I'm going to make the book really nice. Before, I was really confined to one company, and I thought that's all there was. They make my zines. But now that I'm kind of getting a little bit bigger, I can add on nice stuff and make the book of a higher quality while adding on, I got dice. Koozies. I got beer koozie, soda koozie. I got a zine that all my friends contributed to. And now, I just checked today, I got so many responses because part of this backer kit is you can contribute your own host a description of their show. So I'm making like a TV guide. Mm-hmm. And people are also submitting ads for businesses in Fairhaven.
Which is what I did.
Yeah, I know. So now, I'm over 12 pages, and we still got time to go. So that's going to be another zine. So it just keeps on growing. What started as a book is now a book, a zine, another zine, dice, and who knows what's going to come. I'm really hoping that we can maybe cross 30 and get a Dungeon Master screen, like a judge's screen.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you're doing this because it's going to look so great on my shelf as a
I know,
hardcover.
that's why it's selfish.
Yeah.
I wanted something for my shelf.
Right.
So I'm like, well, if I want it, maybe some other people want it.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's my big thing to people who are making stuff. To all you crazy kids in the basements out there, make what you love, and if you really put your passion into it, you're going to find like-minded people who are going to want to be part of that and build that community as well.
Absolutely.
That's what I found through this project.
Yeah. And
that's better than the money.
I'm glad to hear you say that. That means a lot, hearing that, because it's nice, like getting people back at a table and gaming together.
Absolutely.
Again.
Yeah, the stories are worth more than all the checks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to talk about? I know you have an Etsy store.
I got an Etsy store. Oh yeah, I got actually something for you. I brought from the Etsy shop.
Oh.
So, what I've never been good at is the actual visual arts, but I've been forcing myself to do it. So I like to go downstairs and I challenge myself to do like, all right, I got to do 30 paintings of blank for 30 days.
I love your
one a day. Thank you.
You're
I brought you one. This is, I made 30 days of ghosts.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I made them a little ghost for the Halloween season. All right, so just to practice the craft. And then I got, what else? I always like to have goodies. I got you, I don't know if you have this already, but here you got a WHPA-13 sticker. I got a Get Haunted Industries, which is the company sticker.
Thank you so much.
And then I got a couple of pins. But that's the fun of this, to get to share the toys.
Absolutely.
You know? But I got an Etsy shop with some of my paintings. I also sell vintage horror and sci-fi books. I like to get as weird as possible. The Joey Royale, what used to be a character, has now become the personality. And then I've done some other stuff on there. You can buy some of my older games like Ninja City, Ninja City 2, Drug Demon Disco, which is a supplement for that. And then I'm going to start restocking again Darkest Dice, which was my first project, which was a little Jack Chick Tracks, but it's actually a role-playing game. And eventually, I'm going to get my friend from North Smithfield, Tim Deshen. He's big in the GoodmanGames world. We did, one of our first projects was called One of Us, Sideshow Salvation and Dystopian Dust Bowl. So basically, it's Todd Browning's Freaks, the role-playing game.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but that's been out of print for a while. We're going to try to bring that back.
All right, I would love to see that.
Yeah. I'll get you a copy.
Yeah, because I feel like circus culture is another thing that it would be fun to bring back, like the public access culture.
Well, this is the thing. It's a natural progression because right before I left my career in New York and I moved back home to be with my family, I said, all right, I got 2 weeks. I'm not going to work. I'm just going to enjoy New York, the last drops. And my bucket list was to work at a sideshow. So one of my last gigs in New York, I was the outside talker or the barker to the layperson at the Coney Island Sideshow. Okay. So this is a natural progression of that. The outsiders, using their what some would could call deformities to make a name for themselves, you know, turning what somebody might consider weird or off or deformity into their superpower. And that's how it started. This is a natural progression. All of my games are the outsiders being the heroes, getting in the spotlight.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you're a weirdo, be proud of it. Get out there, out of the basements and into the streets.
Yep, I'm proud of it. I know that.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Thank you,
Keep
Reverend.
on going.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. This is Reverend Joey Royale with Weird Heroes of Public Access 13 Fairhaven. I'm Chris, your host with the SmartAssPodCast. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good one.
Ciao, pisanos!